Hey, John Neff, how are you?
I'm doing great, Cindy. How are you?
Good. I'm going to give a little background on who you are. I know a lot of people on Maui know your name. I met you because you're a wonderful engineer, and I know you built that studio that Steely Dan used up there. And there was actually an amazing CD you did that had the Pahinui brothers, Cyril Pahinui, and was it Blah on there? Was Blah Pahinui on that one as well? Who was on that CD?
All of them were Blah, Cyril, and Martin.
And that was an amazing thing. We're going to talk about what Cyril was like. He just passed away a couple weeks ago after a long battle
Yes.
with cancer, and
Yes.
I think his whole room in the hospital there was completely transformed into a musical arena, with all the people coming and sharing the love with him for so long there. But also, I just think you have an amazing I love talking to you. You have an amazing background, including you did a couple albums with Journey. And on top of that, you were able to work with the rather interesting man who I find more than iconic, David Lynch. And you did a lot
Oh,
of
yes.
work with him, including the building of a studio with him, and which must have been amazing because it was quite an amazing studio. And then you actually were able to go to the return of Twin Peaks. I guess they had a reunion of Twin Peaks before the remake was out, right?
And I had music in the third season.
Wow. Well, I don't even know where to start, but let's start with, since Cyril's on my mind and a lot of people's minds. First of all, let people know this was pretty amazing studio. I mean, way up country, up in Kula, right? Towards
Ulupalakua,
almost towards the winery, before the winery, right?
1 mile.
Yeah. And it was like a ranch house, but inside you were able to put together a world-class studio.
Yes. Walter's wife had 7 acres in this communal property, Ohana, Hui, and there was a little redwood house on the property that had no walls. It was just an open space. We turned that into the control room, and then we built a new playing room 35 feet away. There was a beautiful kukui tree right outside the redwood home, and we decided not to take that down and built the playing room 35 feet away and had video and audio links in between the two rooms. And that was the studio in Ulupalakua.
What year was that?
1989 we started.
Wow, that was the year I came to Maui. And I think it's legendary to know that what Walter Becker and Donald Fagen's demand for excellence is legendary. I mean, they were perfectionists, weren't they?
Oh, completely. We did we did Donald Fagen's Kamakiriad album up there. It was also recorded in New York. We'd work a month in Maui, a month in New York, and then they'd take a month off, and I would make a whole new album, generally a Hawaiian album, at the Ulupalakua studio when they were gone.
So how did you come about? I mean, the Pahinui brothers, of course, are one of the most legendary families in Hawaiian music, and there was a lot of family history between them, right?
Oh, quite a bit. Now, the funny thing is, I did a 9-year Maui morning radio show, as you know, across 4 different stations, including Kauai.
Mm-hmm.
And in February of 1982, I had Blah Pahinui in my studio at KVIB 94.3 FM in Makawao. And we were playing Hawaiian and country music at the time. And he was promoting his new solo Hawaiian album. I don't remember the name of it, to tell you the truth. And it was only 2 years since his dad died, Gabby Pahinui. And I said to Blah, I said, you've got his emotive, beautiful, growly voice and emotion. Martin has his beautiful high voice, and Cyril has his slack key guitar abilities. We should make a Pahinui Brothers record. And Blah said to me on the air, he said, no way, brah, will never happen. We don't get along. And it took 9 years,
Wow.
but we finally got the brothers together with Panini Records out of Hana, and we made the Pahinui Brothers record.
And it turned out amazing.
And
It's one of the great Hawaiian releases.
oh, it's a wonderful record. We have David Lindley, Ry Cooter, and Jim Keltner on that album, and they just did a tremendous job.
Absolutely. I mean, what a great moment that you could actually, after 9 years, to get them together. And if anyone gets a chance to get it, I highly recommend it. A beautiful job on that one. It just magic happened when you finally were able to get them together, you know. And I'm really happy that that could happen. How did you hook up with David Lynch?
Oh, well, that's a whole nother question. I moved back to the mainland from Maui in 1993. And I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and built a big studio there, which did not do well. So I was contacted by a studio design company, the ones who had built the Maui studio, to provide technical advisory services to their architectural firm. For the studios they were building. So I agreed to that and started a brand new company in Los Angeles with them called Tectone Engineering. And David Lynch was one of their clients. They were designing his studio. And so I met with David and his wife, Mary, and we came up with a deal to design the studio itself, and that was in 1996. And so I went ahead with the technical design. And then when we were installing the studio in 1997, Dave said, you're the only guy that knows how this thing works. You're going to have to run it.
That's the engineer's secret. And you ended up doing soundtracks for Mulholland Drive and The Straight Story and stuff. Was that done out of that studio?
Yes. So The Straight Story was my first feature film mix, and Mulholland Drive was my second. And I designed all of the 5.1 surround mixes for all of his films except for Dune over the next few years, including Eraserhead, Fire Walk with Me, Wild at Heart, The Elephant Man, Blue Velvet, etc.
Was he as strange to work with as his films were and his TV show Twin Peaks was?
Well, David was actually very wonderful to work with, and he and I made a couple of albums together, including the Blue Bob album, which is he and myself, and exists on Solitude Records.
And you got to premiere that at the Olympia Theater in Paris. That must have been quite a night.
That was an amazing experience. The Olympia, well, we rehearsed for a week in Paris before the concert, because the album was done only by Dave and I, and we engaged Jerry Brown, the drummer from Stevie Wonder, Reggie Hamilton, the bass player from Bette Midler, and Fred Crone, a TV music composer, on keyboards, to be our backup band.
Wow.
And we rehearsed for a week in Paris beforehand, and then did the Olympia concert, which was a one-off. David and I did the show, and he was terrified about playing live.
Well, yeah.
The Rolling Stones offered us the opening slot for their 2003 European tour, and David turned it down because he was too afraid of playing live.
Amazing, amazing. It must have been wonderful. Most musicians are always struggling and have to watch their budget, but I can only imagine that with David you had a lot of leeway in what you were spending.
Well, it was financed by the concert promoters in Paris, so that part was always covered.
That's nice. And Paris itself is nice, right? I mean, you probably had a nice hotel and everything. I mean, that's got to be legendary. And David is a legend. I mean, David Lynch is a legend, no doubt about it. And there's a lot of people that are very curious about him. Behind the Twin Peaks, and it had a rather rocky kind of review of the return of the Twin Peaks, but you actually went back to where the filming happened for the reunion of Twin Peaks, or the reoccurrence, I guess it'd be the next version of Twin Peaks, right?
Yes. We went to North Bend, Washington, where it was originally filmed, and the new series was largely filmed there. And I had music with Rebecca Del Rio in the 10th episode, and we had a great time.
That theme song is so iconic. The first few notes, as soon as you hear, almost like a surf tone, few notes that open up Twin Peaks, is just so unique, right? With the theme song, and the theme song was a major part of what you think of when you think of Twin Peaks now, right?
Oh yes, that was Kenny Landrum on keyboards, and the dong dong
Dom dom
dong dong dong
Yeah.
dong dong dong
Yep.
was actually samples, and he played that with Angelo Badalamenti playing the keyboards, and they had an immediate iconic theme.
Absolutely. What's your latest project, John?
Well, I just mixed two feature films. One was called Sex Weather, and one was called Losing Addison, and that took up from July until now. And now I'm working on an album called Johanna Keith and the Paradigm Crushers, which is a three-piece rock band, very raw, very cool, very good songs. And then I'm going back into another movie in a couple of weeks.
Well, I have to say, John, you're very wise on that. I know a lot of musicians who now say the only way to survive and make money in the music business these days is to do soundtracks and work in films. Is that true?
Well, I do a lot of music projects. That's probably 50% of my business. And then I do 2 or 3 feature films a year, and that's the other 50% of my business.
Well, I think that's pretty smart. You also, people can go to your website and see some of the most amazing collection of guitars as well. What's your website again, John?
JohnNeffProductions.com.
It's an impressive site, John Neff, Neff, Productions.com. And some good pictures there, too, if people want to see your background with the Detroit background, going way back with the Ascots, right?
That's correct. My original record, 1965.
You were like 14 or 15 years old and it became a hit.
14 years old. It became a hit when I was 15, and we went on the road opening for the Turtles on the Happy Together tour.
It's amazing. Well, I'm so glad you got a chance to call in. I miss you. I watch you. People can follow you on Facebook. You've got some wonderful stories and pictures that happen there. And I know you have a lot of friends still here on Maui, so it's good to reconnect with you.
I lived longer on Maui than I've lived anywhere else in my life. I love it. It's my home.
That's wonderful. Well, hey, good talking to you, and we'll keep posted by your Facebook site. And have a happy holiday.
Thank you so much, Cindy.
Aloha.